I love Molly Sleuth.
I am the eyes and ears of this institution.
Mama don't like tattletales.
Who knows? In 1,000 years, even you may be worth something.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Room for one more, honey.
Today we face the monsters that are at our door.
I think we live in overstimulated times.
Hi, everybody. Happy Friday night. Hopefully we got all of our technical difficulties out of the way about 2 minutes ago. So we'll just cross our fingers. I am Molly Sleuth. I was a teenage punk rock piece of garbage from, like, oh my God, the Valley. And that's why it's so exciting to talk to you, not just for your human story, but we're both like totally from the Valley tonight. And hi, chat. We'll get into you in a second. But Keith Jajko, I'm so excited to talk to you because you just have this amazing life. And so welcome. We're all going to learn from you tonight.
Thank you so much.
And so Keith wrote a book, Rehab All-Star. We're going to get into the book, but we're going to get into your life because I feel like there is such a push now. Like we grew up in sort of that like fuck it all punk rock sort of mentality. But now like people are caring about stuff so much. Everybody's become so sensitive about stuff, and addiction has just become such a prevalent sort of climate that we're all living in, that Trump has come up with this recovery plan. So we're going to talk about that too. Hi, Drum Zombie. Welcome, Jake. Jake coming from Austin, Texas. So you are no stranger to drug addiction. But okay, so Keith, first, I would just want to say thank you so much for coming on. It takes so much power to be vulnerable. So I just have to applaud you all for even coming and talk to your life, and things always come as planned. Now, I was a cop for a long time, so I'm used to reading people their Miranda rights before I ask them questions. But what I'll say to you is that if there's anything you don't want to talk about, just tell me to fuck myself. It's totally not personal. I just love that you're here to talk to us. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to be here. You can ask about anything. That's kind of the point of the book.
Yeah.
It's just leave it open, put it out there, and let the pieces fall where they may, and let people make their own decisions. I'm not trying to force any concept ideas. It's just
right.
I put it on paper and let's hope it works.
Yeah. So you've had a lot of successes. You weren't just like some teenage loser that's never figured life out. Hey, Pammy over on YouTube. But talk to me about like early Keith life. Like what was your life like pre-addiction, and like how far back did that go?
I grew up in the Valley, just like we talked about. Canoga Park is where I grew up till I was 11. Then I moved to Simi Valley. Busing nudged my parents over that little line, and it was just a wonderful childhood. I had wonderful parents who cared, young parents, and I did Little League. I had good grades. Rarely got any fights in school. Made a lot of friends in Canoga Park. It was a challenge moving to Simi Valley and starting over in 6th grade. But it was all wonderful. I don't have any bad memories about childhood. I had some friends that I met when I moved to Simi Valley who are probably watching right now. Just awesome people. And so I can't, a lot of times you get into rehab and they're like, tell us about your past. Were you abused? And that just didn't happen. That did not happen. And so it was a wonderful, we were, middle class, maybe up right on the border, of lower class, but we were there. My dad was a mailman. My mom worked for the telephone company, and they worked hard. They worked long hours, and they were good people. As I grew up, there's a lot of drinking, both sides of the family. Both grandfathers alcoholics for sure, and a lot of other trouble drinkers. And then ultimately on my dad's side, a little bit of marijuana smoking, but nothing out of the 60s terribly unusual, but a lot of drinking, parties at the house, every family event, there was alcohol there. But that didn't really, I didn't see anyone unusual or any fights or falling down or anything crazy. So, it was accepted, I guess you could say. And this is long before we knew the hereditary challenges of addiction. So, nobody knows. And I grew up, and then it was an interesting time, Carter and the hostages, and then we went into Reagan, and all was fun. I went from, the Who to heavy metal. Eventually in college, I got into punk rock. My life changed. But, it was kind of a boring time musically, 83, 84. I mean, Bruce Springsteen, Madonna, I can't go back there. I just can't do it.
You're only a little older than me.
I know, but I look back, I see the top 10 list from back then and I cringe. I'm like, I listened to Bryan Adams. Oh, don't tell anybody.
What? He's still good. He's still good.
I don't know. But anyway, I became somewhere around 9th, 10th grade. I kind of turned around, started like buddy surfing a lot at Zuma Beach with a friend, Brian Miladnik.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't know why I'm still alive. I was never a really good swimmer, but we body surfed and boogie boarded a lot. And my dad was a surfer. He met my mom at Malibu, literally. So we were at the beach a lot, and I grew up a beach guy, and that got me tan, long blonde hair, and I grew up and discovered girls and got a car early, and a lot of good fortune. And but I played baseball, and I was decent at it, and that got me kind of as an athlete. I played 1 year of football and basketball too early, but I just focused on baseball, and as high school progressed, I got decent grades. I had to try hard; it wasn't easy. But, I got a car right at 16, a 66 Mustang. So I was like, my dad was a brave soul.
Wow.
And from there, long blonde hair, surfer, tan, baseball team captain, we just started chasing girls. But really, I was more shy. I was never a player. I was more into chasing beer, frankly, is what it was.
Oh, okay.
I loved tapping kegs, I loved those backyard parties back then. They don't do that anymore. But our backyard parties were epic. And it's in the book that they would call me Keg Man, because I could tell you what type of tap you need, and tap it. And I learned right about then that you get over these backyard parties, you pay your $2 or $3 to get in, and then you get a little red cup, and it's crowded, so you might not get a lot, and they might break up the party, so you might not get $3 worth. So I determined that if I ran the keg, I would be sure to get my money's worth. So I learned how to run the keg. So I had to tap, and I'll fill a little bit for me. That's kind of how it started. And then we go to the beach a lot to Zoom, and there was always beer. It was just looking back, it was just beer all the time, and made it kind of hard to date. I never had a girlfriend for a very long time in high school. I was fear of missing out with my friends. Where's the party? I think it was just an adrenaline kind of a thing. I still get moments of that here. Well,
you've got a party in the chat. You've got a bunch of people supporting you tonight, Keith. You've got Pammy Rutledge. She's always over on YouTube. She's saying, hey, y'all. Laree Carlisi says, rancid rules. And the Cabazon 30 says, Keith, proud of you.
Oh, that's rad.
love Drum Zombie and Circle of One are sharing boob emotes in the Rumble chat. I got some good. I got He-Man here for you guys. There you go. And Jake is saying metal was at its best in the 80s. All your CB peeps are proud of you, Keith. You look really healthy and happy. From Larry Carlisi. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Larry.
Correct.
You
Awesome.
got a lot of love. A lot of love.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so you're obviously not an a-hole that, like, you know, could only have fun when you are on something. Like, you obviously are somebody that has lifelong friends and people love you. So tell me more about party. The kegerator Keith gets out of control. Like, when did you first start to feel like it wasn't like a healthy amount?
I think ultimately it all gets back to anxiety. I mean, I'm not shy. People who know me know I talk too much, and I'm outgoing, but I still have. My mom had really bad social anxiety. At the end, she would hardly ever go out, and I still have that a little bit. Not as bad, but I have anxiety. So drinking made me loosen up, not be as, you know, they talk about it in AA. Fear is, you know, a big driver for a lot of things, and I don't think mine was fear of not knowing people or people think I'm dorky. I really don't care, but for some reason, the drinking eased the anxiety and made me feel better. And they talk about this a lot in the AA Big Book. And ultimately, you know, I went to college. You know, the high school ended. It was an incredible senior year. I'm still very close to a lot of people from the class. Go to all the reunions, and you know. But then I went to college, and I went to a JC and to play baseball. They recruited me, and I lasted a week in baseball and decided I can't see anymore. I'm gonna get a degree, and you know, all of a sudden I wasn't, you know, I wasn't a big man on campus. There was a lot of different people. It was a little more serious. So I just kept, you know, I was just drinking hard. I wasn't working very much, just enough to get by and keep the car running, and you know, just weekend warrior, classic weekend warrior. I still don't know how I got good grades at JC, and eventually I mean, it's in the book that I had some run-ins with the cops in high school, nothing major. But I got a DUI at 19. I was a ballpark college student. I got a DUI. So I lost my car for a whole summer. I had to ride my bike to a hospital, make money, get another car. I get another car. Within a month, I get a DUI. So that 1986 was a bad year. And, you know, that was the beginning because I vividly remember my first AA meeting because the judge back then gave me a little card with 5 meetings. That's what I was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got to get them signed off.
So I go in, and this is like kind of where I grew up on Tapo Township. Now it's a Greek fast food restaurant, but it used to be a gas station and it's closed. It was an AA meeting, so I walked in there. And the only thing I remember from those 2 meetings that I went to, because I forged the rest, was it was dark, it was smoke filled, and it was a bunch of old guys talking about God. That's what I remember. That's all I remember. And so that was 1986, and then I didn't go back to AA for I think 23 years at all. And then I walked in down the street in Tapo Street when I actually needed it, and it wasn't court ordered or mommy ordered. I was there, and it was all bright. There was no smoke, and it wasn't what I remembered, which was an amazing eye-opening experience. But I think that it was the DUI that started it, because from there. You know, I had to go to the classes and, you know, I had the penalties, you know, suspend a license for a month, pay the fees. And eventually, like 6 or 9 months later, I stopped paying the $50 a month I was supposed to pay. I was with a buddy recovering from a back surgery at a bar in Simi Valley. And we got out and nobody, you know, all of a sudden the cops surrounded us, guns to my head and everything. I mean, terrifying thing. And the guy I was with had a gun in his shorts, you know. And apparently, while we were drinking, you know, some guy got close to his car. He went and took a break. The guy was parked too close or something, pointed the gun at him, said, "Move your car." Went back in the bar. We drank. We come out, and just terrifying experience. And they took him away, but then they ran my, you know, I didn't pay my $50, so off to jail I went. And yeah, that was a tough one to explain to mom. Wow. I need to get out. He had to pay the whole fine off right then. And you know, this is all 86, 87, 88. You know, these little reminders are happening, and a lot of my friends were getting decent jobs, and I was still in college, and I transferred to Cal State Northridge. Ultimately, decided on journalism, and I'd written for the newspaper in high school, JC, and then CSUN, which has a good journalism program, and I started. That's about the transition to punk rock. I don't know why. I think it was a combination of being introduced to it from my friend Mike Jacob, who's at the beginning of the book, being heavily indoctrinated by my friend James Swanson, and Girl Troubles. I think those three things. I'm like, I just got the big out of it. And one day I went to the record store in Simi Valley, and I bought two sets. Never heard any. I heard punk rock in high school, GBH, Black Flag. Yeah, no melody. I was like, I don't get it.
One, two, 1, 2.
I didn't get it. I bought the Milkmen, the Dead Milkmen, and then the Minutemen double nickels on the dime. And the Dead Milkmen, I'm like, yeah, it's all right. It's kind of, you look back now, it's more like alternative rock, but I like Punk Rock Girl. That was kind of a cool song. But the Minutemen were like, it was a double album, so I paid for a double album, and it was the weirdest music I'd ever heard. I mean, I was like, what is this? This isn't amplified like GBH or not aggressive at all. It's kind of got some jazz in it. It's weird. But I paid the money, so I'm like, I'm going to listen to this thing no matter if I'm missing something here. And I played it, and I just, a whole chapter, my bio is a Minutemen lingo. It's bio Econo, because they always said they jammed Econo. So I have Minutemen, a little tribute there at the beginning. And that started to change, and I was hanging out with Mike and James a lot. I was just discovering everything from that point on. Like the world went, it was I can go through all of them, man. Dinosaur Jr., Black Flag, Ramones, went through a big Ramones period. Descendants, for sure. All eventually. This was Replacements. I got into Replacements. That's in the book. And I just went all in, and I had all the stickers in the back of my car, and I shaved my head for the first time. It wasn't shaved like this, but I went the full half-inch. I just cut it off, I didn't have much to start, but I was like, what, I don't want to look like those guys anymore. And of course at this time it was hair band central, it was the ballad era. So music was getting even worse. It was all Poison, and it was terrible. And even Motley Crue, I saw Motley Crue like in 1992, and they were heavy metal. They were edged. They were a little bit dangerous, man. They were not dangerous in 1988. And and Van Halen, and I just got into other bands, and it changed my attitude. It was I questioned a little bit more of everything. I built a really good bullshit detector, really good one. I still have it to this day. And anyway, I kept drinking and drinking. I must have drunk drive at least twice a week forever. And I had that DUI, crashed the car, got another car. 88, 89. Then I met a girl and moved in with her not long after, and still went to college. And basically I just kept taking classes until they told me I'd already taken them all. That's how I got my degree.
Okay.
And they sent me a letter. Hey, you got 136 credits. And I was like, oh, what's that mean? Well, you got to come in and talk about this. And I was graduating. That was 1990. I had an internship in Mammoth Lakes, California, at a newspaper, so I got some bylines. So I did the internship, unpaid thing. All you youngsters out there wondering how you break into writing, that's a good way to do it. And those clips, plus what I got in college, got me into my local newspaper, Simi Valley Enterprise. Started writing for them, living with the girl, and just looking back on it, it was stressful, man. Being a reporter, I look back now and I'm like, I picked the toughest. Like, I majored in journalism and I minored in political science, and I ended up working in those two fields. And it's just politics is blood sport, and it was blood sport then, and it's way worse now.
But the media has changed so much. Back then, there were very strict rules. Now it's creative writing.
the loss of the media has not helped my recovery.
Yeah.
I've watched this from 2016 on. I've studied it. It's a joke. It's not journalism. And that, of course, makes me frustrated, and frustration for an alcoholic is very dangerous. And so, I'm on social media, and that didn't help it. It's a whole bunch of bad things were happening and bad decisions. And, but I just kept progressing. I won't say failing upward, but I just kept getting asked to do more things. So I was doing something right, but deep in my mind, I knew I was like a phony. Like, sooner or later, something bad's going to happen, and they're going to figure out that, I'm doing cocaine and partying my ass off. And this, I don't know if this, all my friends were like working and getting through with it, but man, the hangovers killed me. And, but this was going on. And, LSD and going to San Diego and Tijuana. And I mean, I look back on all the trips and it's hilarious. I couldn't do it now. No way. I get tired thinking about it. I'm like, how did I just keep doing that? And the daily news, I went through the Northridge earthquake. I went through the Rodney King riots. I covered all that stuff. It was exciting. And I told you, I covered cops for a couple of years. So I went on ride-alongs with felony warrant searches, and probation was an eye-opener, going to their houses. People who complain about law enforcement right now, like ICE, I'm like, have you gone on a ride-along? Because if you haven't, haven't ever,
Truly.
just shut the F up. Just shut the F up.
I think that's what made me a cop, was like, if you don't like the police, go get hired, change it from the inside, like be the best cop around. We got more people cheering for you in the chat. We got Matt Rauch, says, Keith, great guy. Do you know Matt Rauch? Hey, do you have a brother named Paul Rauch that was from Moore Park? Because I knew him. And then Karen Smart says, aloha, everyone. Proud of you, Keith.
She's
Keith,
here. I'm in her house.
Superstar. So exciting. And then the boys on Rumble are talking about Shout at the Devil is a tight album.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, Shout at the Devil. But that was early. That was like 83, 84. I'm talking Molly Crew at 88, 89.
Listen, I wasn't cool for a long time. 1984, I was at Dodger Stadium watching the Jackson 5 Victory Tour, screaming my lungs out because I was convinced that Michael could hear me and he would pull me onto the stage and marry me. It didn't happen, and that's all I'm saying. But 1984, I was not punk rock. I was not very cool.
Yeah, I didn't go back and say I wasn't either. There's a term that I use now, and I use it with today's society. It's a rebel without a clue. That's the best term for me.
Okay.
In the 80s. Yeah, I was a rebel, but I really didn't know what. Why or what I was fighting for. What are we fighting for? I don't know. I'm just mad about it. And that continued all the way through. Right now, it's like, why? I talk to guys in the house like Matt Rauch. He lives with me in another room, another unit. And I go, what are we mad about? Does this hurt me? I can't watch TV news, but I'm like, does this actually affect me? I don't think it does. I have a life-threatening illness, man. This is like number one, and that's all I care about. And everything else is channel noise. It's a distraction. I've learned, it took a long time to learn this, but I learned that I can't be bounced off the tracks, man, because I have a short attention span. If a squirrel runs by, man, I might relapse. I really have to know this.
Yeah, that is really interesting, though, because like doom scrolling and like forcing yourself into chaos is like such a thing now. And I wouldn't really think about it from your perspective. But yeah, that's probably.
And it's funny you say that, because that's the exact term I use with Matt. They come in, what are you doing? I'm like, I was in my bed when I lived with him. I'm like, doom scrolling. I wake up in the morning, I doom scroll. I'm getting better. I only trust Substack, and I can't watch TV news. I haven't for years. And the guys will turn it on in the morning, and I'm like, why do you guys watch this? It just makes us all mad. That's what it's intended to do. I can't watch this. I can't do it. I'm sorry.
Do you think that's all media now, to just sort of get you distracted and to get you that roller coaster of emotions, because it's just not hitting that same dopamine center that scrolling does?
It all gets back to the media. I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's all about money. They're all owned by huge multinational corporations. A lot of the media companies own the pharma companies, the same ones. When I went to journalism school, they were very strict about ethics and they always talked about this corporate media. And at that time, the big threat was USA Today, believe it or not. That was a big threat. That was the paper. And they talked about, I'm like, yeah, I get it. Separation of editorial and advertising. And then I worked for a small paper, and advertising was right next to me. And I had them come over a couple of times and give me tips that they wanted me to write about. And I knew better. But it was a no-no to run articles or chase things just for dollars. And that just changed. Well, personally, I think what happened was the internet, and especially social media, Google and Facebook in particular, killed the media. They they just drained their resources, all their money. They just got their ass kicked. The New York Times got their ass kicked by Google, and there was nothing left to do but start taking big money, which is pharma, military contractors, and not only they're taking so much money just to live. Instead of cutting back, like we don't need a correspondent in Afghanistan. They wouldn't cut back. They just started taking pharma money, and it's called advertising contracts. That's what's going on. And so they take
Yeah,
it $4 million a year, and they sign a contract that says, "I will not say that vaccines don't work. I just won't do it." And it's
right.
bigger
It
than that.
changes
It, it,
how they report on things.
it's bigger than that. I mean, I even think in the Epstein files, we're starting to see a little bit where this is all coming from. And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say much more, but it's all about money. And they ruin journalism, and it pisses me off, and it has not helped my recovery. But I've learned to it's something I can't
Yeah.
control. Then I
Well,
can't
you
control
grew
it.
up in a time with the Weekly World News and Bat Boy, and like that was all like cheesy satire, not real. And now, like, real media is like they don't report on the one key piece, or they hide the identity of the suspect and stuff. And it's sort of murky now. So Kim
I
says, "Hey, stranger." And Kim is down to only 2 times a week on TikTok. I'm very proud of it. Kim, call me. There's a shitty club tomorrow night, and I want to go with you. Matt Rauch, my brother is Paul. Okay, you're blowing my mind right now. Paul Rauch, Adam Calloway, the Pitzels, like the whole still life thing. This is my childhood, Matt. Don't be screwing with me. Are you serious? Because like I knew all those kids, the Moore Park kids and the TO kids, and like, oh my gosh, that's just so. I'm gonna cry right now. Gosh, Keith, you know everyone. How is this possible?
Yeah, I
Um,
have a lot of people. I have a lot of people who care. I mean, writing the book, I'm like, I've got all these angels. Never really knew it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm lucky to be alive. So, it's a big
yeah.
deal. A big deal.
So that support system that you have, obviously you have it in recovery. Do you think that because in your book, it sort of seems almost solitary when you were going through your addiction, that you didn't have, I mean, obviously you didn't have this like flood of people coming, in to pat you on the back, but you were kind of, it seemed more stoic. Like you hid it a lot. There were people that knew you very well that weren't aware of your level of addiction. So I just wonder, like, I mean, you seem so personable and everything. Is it just now through this sobriety journey that you're able to, I don't, my stupid camera, I swear. I don't know if it's like I'm too white that there's like ghosts in here, Keith. I don't know. But like, you've obviously had friends since you were a zygote. Like these people still love you. Did you just maybe not see that support at the time, and now you're more aware of it?
I think that's a lot. It goes back to what I said earlier about acceptance. The denial thing. Um, I didn't have to go to AA or start recovery until I was forced to when I collapsed umpiring a girls softball game. I mean, that was pretty public, and from that point on, there was no denying anything. All of a
Mhm.
sudden, the board of directors knew. My wife was like, kind of had a good inkling, but now it's out of the hat. Everyone was calling. I knew I had to go see my primary. There's a moment in the book where she grabs my face and just says, real close, and just says, "You poor soul. You have such a long road to go." And it's just vivid. And it's still at that time. I don't know what you mean. I was just in shock mode. Like I couldn't believe everything that was happening, that I had collapsed umpiring. And she was sending me to her specialist, which was a friend from college, USC, up the street. And he was a psychiatrist and a physician in addiction specialty. He ran one of the Malibu rehabs, and that was my outpatient to start. And they got serious real fast. And you know, yeah. So I went from not thinking that I had a problem, or I hate to use the word denial because I always knew I was drinking way too much, but it was I still hadn't accepted the fact that I had a mental ailment. I had, a serious affliction. And he was the original guy, Dr. Muhammad. I think his last name's Akakur. He was in Agoura Hills. What he said in 2009 still applies to this day. And he said it's a triangular program. It's meds, it's individual therapy, and it's group therapy. Those three things are what you need. And until I adhered to that in 21, 22, 23, I didn't get it. I would not take the meds, or I would, the individual therapy. I don't know. I just wasn't doing it. And when I finally did, I thought, Dr. Muhammad, who I hated at the beginning, he was right.
He was right.
He was right. I think that I look back a lot because I've lost so much time. It's like I subtracted a decade from my life for really no reason other than I'm just a stubborn bastard. I don't know. It's shocking to go thinking back to years like, what was I in 2014? Oh yeah, I was living there. Now I look back in the years of the last 15 years, and so like, where was I? Oh, I was in Long Beach, or I was in Aloha House up the hill. And it's not a good, healthy way to like look back on your life. So, at least I can laugh about it. That's the key. I tell the guys in the house who are struggling, I'm like, you know what? You have to take this for the humor that it is. Me and Matt and all these guys, we're all adults, but we have to have these rules. It's funny, but not always. Some people annoy the hell out of you, and you just have to know, like I said, if a squirrel runs by, or if I stub my toe, man, I might be in trouble, and I have to remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is like daily maintenance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one thing I was interested is you were talking about AA, and that these meetings, and this is probably after that 23-year gap and not the 2 meetings you went to initially, but that people talking about drinking all the time, constantly, was making you thirsty instead of like focusing on, I just think about when I was a little kid and I was always getting flat tires with my bike. And my dad's like, stop rolling over the stupid things that you're supposed to be missing. You have to like focus on the clear path and not focus on the thing you're trying to avoid. And so do you think it's sort of like that? Like you need to focus on the success of sobriety instead of the problem?
My relationship with AA is long and storied, as they say in literary terms. I think it's a wonderful program. I actually said that in the book. It's just not, I don't know if it's long-term, and it just didn't work for me. And why, who knows? I had so many moments where I was just on the cusp of just feeling like I was getting there. And you have the steps, but ultimately my problem was I had so many sponsors and so many messages and so many meetings. It was like a storm of messages. It wasn't like one thing. There was a lot of conflicts, and you had personalities in there, and they tell you, it's principles before personalities. I get it. But there are certain individuals and personalities that just gave me such a bad taste with it. And ultimately at the end, I was like, you know what? I've been doing AA for 12 years. And if I do it again, I'm insane. I'm going back to the same thing, expecting a different result. Mm-hmm. So I got here and I gave it up to medical. I gave it up to Kaiser. I said, tell me what I got to do. And that's what got me 2 years, was doing IOP, the aftercare, which I emphasize a lot in my book. Without the aftercare, I don't get to 2 years, and I was in these Zoom calls every week, and I still am, by the way. I'm in IOP every Wednesday. And aftercare got me to 2 years. And then I slipped up, and I don't ever slip up. I crash and burn. So I slipped a little, and then I crashed and burned, and I dragged on, and I ended up doing, I think, 2 more rehabs from there. But it always goes back to acceptance and gratitude, always. And AA talks a lot about it. There's a heck of a lot of AA in my book. I might not mention them, but a lot of those, I'm not the same person I was in '09 because of AA. I don't think as much as personally. I definitely don't get angry really fast. I still have my moments, I overblow things. That's a big lesson. It's like, is this the end of the world? No, I'll let this slide. There were worse things. I think Kennedy said it when he was running for president. Someone said, "Aren't you worried about getting killed? Like assassinated?" And he goes, "There's worse things than dying." And they go, "Like what?" And he goes, "Living like a slave."
Yeah, I like
remember
him. I'm a little black-pilled, Keith. We don't need to talk about politics, but I'm wondering
Thankfully.
who's going to run. So we'll see. So Lena Johnson says, "Hey, Keith, looking good." And we got a question from you from Circle of One. Do you think addiction is a built-in feature of humans, or is it a defect? He's saying. Yeah. So do you think that you were predisposed to this through your genetics, or do you think it was just a system of learning that alcohol is cool?
I think it's a combination of all of them, but I definitely believe genetics is a danger factor. It's the best way to put it is miswiring, and it's passed on, passed on, passed on. Not all of it gets triggered. Some people don't ever drink, so they don't trigger it. But going back to Dr. Muhammad early on, he said it's really three things that he focused on. One was hereditary, social. There was a third one, environment. So I was in an environment. I had the hereditary, social. I'd go out to party, and in the environment. Southern California in the 80s and 90s. I was just young, and it was just something to do. I don't know how to describe it, but I had all three. I think it's built in. It's a human flaw. The brain, it's all about the reward system in your brain, and how it operates. And we're the only, you don't look at other animals that will just, go out and seek something and then it kills them. This happens for 40 million years. The other animals do this stuff. It goes back to in the 50s when they finally started thinking, maybe alcoholism or addiction is a brain malady. And they had they had a mouse, and they put the mouse in the cage, and then they had water on each side, and one was just water, and one was water with cocaine. And the mouse would go click the cocaine thing. You click it, and the water comes out. Click it, and the water comes out. And you do that until he died. No animal does that in the wild. We do.
Yeah.
That's like it's a brain. It's a pathway where dopamine and it's just shooting back and forth and a lot of people, normal people, their brain acknowledges it and handles it. Others like me, it's like a no-go. It's I just know better. Even a drop, even now kava, microdosing mushrooms. I tried that. It's a bad idea for me. But everyone's different. But personally, I think it's a flaw in the human brain ultimately. So the hereditary part plays a part. The other two that I talked about make it worse. So if you have it, like my kids, they watch me and they party. I don't fault them for that. I don't try to over dad them. Let them go learn on their own, kind of like I did. But they're not doing really stupid, crazy things like I did. They're not drinking vodka straight like it's water. They're one's more social than others, but they drink and they smoke some pot and they're handling it. But they're cognizant now. This is 30 years later. They're cognizant of the dangers of the hereditary element of it. And people might have mentioned it back then, but I didn't know any better. I didn't have a grandpa who was not an alcoholic. I just thought maybe they're all like that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. There's a lot more warning signs and information out there for people. Now we can have this information, but will we act on it? I'm not sure I would have acted on it if I wasn't pushed. By the courts, by the collapse. Wife moved to Missouri. I mean, these things pushed me to continue to seek help, and ultimately, for me, we were talking about the isolation. I never really thought I was isolating. I really isolated. I think I shut people off because I ended up going to rehab in Long Beach, and it was far from anyone I knew, and I was broke, and I wasn't I gave up. I just kind of got separated from society for quite a few years, and it was rough. And I was in and out of homelessness and rehabs, and when you're in your 40s and you first get homeless, I can't even describe that one. That's not just an eye opener, but man, it is something. It's hard to get over. It's like I told doctors I might have PTSD from some of this stuff, and they're like, "Oh no, that's only involved with the military and live action." And I'm like, I don't know, man. I've seen some pretty hairy. I've seen some hairy stuff out there.
Yeah,
none of it good.
Yeah. Talking about Rod is in the chat, said I didn't know I had a problem because everyone I knew was a hard drinker, so he thought it was totally normal. And wants to know, where can we get your book locally? Are you in stores or are you just online? Just online.
Just online. Yeah, my website, keithjajko.com, has a few links. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart. I always go through Walmart because I get free shipping. My distributor's name is Ingram Sparks. I don't have the link right on me, but you can order directly from them. I direct people to Walmart. Seems to be the easiest. That's how. The only copy I've gotten so far is the one right there, which has my edits in it. And that took 3 weeks to get here in Hawaii. So that's why we're all delayed. Everyone's like, "Where's my book?" Others have finished it, but a lot of people are like, "Where's my book?" And the distributors in Pennsylvania, the mail. I don't know what to tell you.
Pammy says it's at Barnes and Noble, Target, Amazon, etc.
Yeah. If you go to Amazon and type in Rehab All Star, you're going to find it, or my last name, which is right here, which is unusual. Bad Polish name.
You say Jajko, but it's Jajko.
That's it.
So
Looks like
let's
Jajko.
talk about Rehab All Star. So you have stopped them all. You have been sort of more of a professional, a taste tester of rehabs.
Okay,
and then
rehab
you've been
cracker.
through the sus. Yes, my internet is not doing well. I'm very sorry about that. So just let me know it's always something. And I called them. I shouldn't have to call my internet company every Friday and ask for permission to use the internet. But so tell me about the difference in the rehab styles. Like, is there one, if somebody is thinking about going, or their loved one is thinking about going, do they need to spend $30,000 a month?
That's a tough call. The $30,000 a month for my first rehab was a 30-day program. I had good insurance back then. This is before Obamacare. My wife worked for the school district. I had good insurance. I learned later that I had 100 days for free. So I went there 3 times and did 92 days. So I had 8 left. But that's just, is it worth it going into a 30-day rehab? Ultimately, they call that a wash and rinse cycle. It's not enough. I mean, my opinion right now is whenever I hear someone going, I'm going to do 14 days. That's the story of Anna, by the way, in the book. She got 14 days from her insurer. And I'm like, she needs 90. And as I got to the 90-day rehab and eventually went to the same rehab, the guy goes, this time we're going to give you 4 months. I didn't even argue. I was like, yeah, it's really the more time you get under your belt. But for that first rehab, the bottom line is you got to get them away from the poisons any way you can. It's just get them to detox. I talk about the drive there. They'll do anything they can to get out of that drive. And they might not even make it from the car to the rehab. You got to get them in that rehab, sit with them, and sign them up. That separates the body and mind from the poison. That's the start. And without it, you get people really hungover or detoxing going into AA, and it's a miserable place to be if you're detoxing. When you go to a formal rehab, you have a doctor and a nurse taking care of you in these detoxes. That's extremely helpful. That's a start, and then you get 30 days. Is it enough? I think for young people, it's almost required. It's like we've got to introduce their thinking to the fact that they have a problem. They're going to be young and they're going to think, I have a whole life ahead of me. How can I not drink or not eat this? My whole life, that's not fair. He did it till he was 40, and I got my whole life. You can't think like that.
Yeah.
Once you're in a rehab or people are talking to you about it, you probably got a significant problem. And it's not going away. I hate to break the news to you, but it's not. There's no tap dancing around it. There's no magic pill. There's no easy way. You have a mental illness that needs to be addressed probably daily. And if you go back to rehab the second or third time, then you really have a serious problem. That's what I did not acknowledge until years later. But I'm like, especially writing this book, it's like, I was nuts. I just think about things I accomplished. I'm like, I'm lucky to be here, frankly. That's one of the reasons why I laugh so much about this. They're like, your book has a lot of horrors. And I'm like, well, I shouldn't be here. I'm on extended time right now, and I might as well use it well. So that's how I look at it. God gave me bonus time, and I'm gonna treat it that way.
Yeah, it's just an awesome way to look at it because there's so many people that just identify with victimhood right now, where they just slump over and forget it. There's no will to fight.
Yeah.
So I just applaud. Chopper and Marna send shakas, Matt Rauch says. 30K for 30 days. Wow. It sounds like rehab can be a bit of a scam at those places. Hey, but Jake,
That's,
not if it saves your life. I mean,
yeah. There's a lot about the industry is fascinating. It's almost getting to the point where the pharma companies or someone big's getting involved with trying to direct rehab and people to go get on Suboxone. And I'm starting to sniff it out. In July, so I get out of my last rehab in June and I relapse in July. And during that month, a book came out called Rehab, An American Scandal. That was the name of the book. So I had to read it, of course. I took till August till I moved in with Chopper and Arna's complex that I had to read my book and then read that book. And the book was very good, very well researched for 6 years, but it focused on 4 stories over 10 or 12 years. Only two had to do with rehabs. One was a sober living house. One was a doctor who couldn't just give out Suboxone freely. I'm like, that's not a scandal. I mean, here's a funny story. The very first rehab I went to was above it all in Lake Arrowhead, up on the mountain, AIA. So I crack open this book in July, and what's the very first page or very first story is from AIA. A year after I was there, that some kid wandered off, because in rehabs they don't hold you hostage there. Anyone's free to leave whenever you want. And this kid walked away, and he fell off a cliff and died. That's the scandal. There's more to it, but you'll see in my book. I interviewed a couple former colleagues from AIA, and they're doing. Best story in my book is Molly Kennedy. She's in Ohio now. She was in my first rehab, and didn't see each other for a long time. And I see her on Facebook, like, I don't know, a year and a half ago. We're Facebook friends, but not communicating. And it was her on Facebook, her chip. It's 12 years. I knew it was a lot because there's all these Roman numerals that I don't get. I get 1, 2, and I'm like, how'd you get an X in there? And she was 12 years sober, and I'm like, 12 years? That goes back to 2012. That's when we were in rehab together. So it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, you know what? If I would have just stuck with it, I'd be quite clean and sober now. But I interviewed her. And she had nothing but wonderful things to say about AIA. So AIA did wonderful things for one person. I interviewed a second gentleman, said the same thing. Granted, we all went back 2 or 3 times. She did 3 AIA stays in 1 year, but that was it. And yeah, we went back, but it takes courage to go back to the same rehab. I'll be honest, man. You go back, you got the same counselors, sometimes the same people, and you're like, it's just embarrassing. But Molly did it. Kudos to her. Great story. But others like Anna, my friend Anna from high school, at the very beginning of the book, she didn't make it. She had a seizure. She detoxed. She fell backward, hit her head, and she died. These things. There's a lot more to it. I don't say a lot more to it.
I think that's part of addiction that people don't really understand, is that it can come with a lot of medical complications, seizures and GI issues and trips to the ER and a lot of medical bills beyond just paying for drugs and alcohol.
I had all that. A funny story is early in AA. They'll talk about it to some of the old timers, and they'll go, "Yeah, I got in there, but I looked at some of these guys' stories, and God, I'm not that bad, so I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not. Thank goodness I'm not him." And that's how I thought for a little while, and eventually it's like, I'm that guy. Now I'm that guy. I'm the guy who had a seizure. Everything you talk about, arrest, I've done it all. I'm like, drugs and overdose, yeah, check it off, check off the box, and so it ended up being me. They talk about that, and it's like, that is really in the end, that is really your destination. It's jails, institutions, or death, unless you take it seriously enough to go attack it. That's such a hard message to pound.
Keith, the chat's asking how you can tell the difference between a good rehab and a bad one, but it sounds like with Molly, that rehab that you met her at totally worked for her. and that
Yep.
it took other systems to totally work for you.
I think it's to find one that's good. You really, you need first person. I always say in marketing, third party validation is golden. So people who review my book or comment here positively, that's like worth way more money than paying for an ad. And rehabs has been around a while. Will have a lot of reviews. Yelp is probably one good place to go because they don't mess around. They'll have some bad ones in there too. And you always have to take really bad rehab um, reviews with a grain of salt because they relapse, so they're mad. Alcoholics, we blame a lot. And but you're going to get people who are going to it's the stories like Molly's where they say 12 years for that rehab. There's something to be said for that. Redgate had a great alumni organization. All the dozens upon dozens of them will be there every week in these meetings, and they're volunteering in the hallways. You're around people who went through the program and got better. That was amazing. So it's a lot easier now when you can go online and check reviews.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to go cold. I have a close friend from high school, and her in 24, her son died of fentanyl overdose, and she does a podcast now with another woman from Thousand Oaks who she met, whose son also died from fentanyl. And they talk about, I talk about in the book, like with Obamacare, pretty much anyone can get into a rehab, but then I hear from Christy, and she's like, my son was going through it, and it was a dangerous time. He was going in and out of rehab, and it was hard to get him into a rehab. And I think some of that has to do with the fact that I was always broke, so I always qualified for Obamacare, whereas people who this was kind of a bad gap. People who make money, man, you don't have that automatic county bed. Your insurance covers it or it does not. And my friend Anna, her husband was a cop, so I know she had good insurance. I'm pretty sure if she would have asked for more time, she could have got it. But the initial reaction from her insurer was 14 days. Not enough.
Yeah.
So how do you tell a good one? It would take some time to get good reviews, to really go through it. You're gonna get some bad ones, and some of them might be spot on. But Google searches and maybe even AI are gonna be a really good source because you can get a deep dive into, the reputation of some of these organizations, and a lot of them pay a lot of money to fluff it up. Hopefully you have a good BS detector like me to see through that. But how do you tell? I'm not sure the really big ones that people talk about are private pay. Those are the Malibu guys, up in the Hamptons or wherever. I have no idea what they do. Spas. That wasn't my story at all. I had the opposite. The Salvation Army that's as low as you can go. It's pretty rough.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I would think it would really be dependent on your mindset going into it. If you think in 14 days I'm going to be cured, then I don't think any rehab is going to be effective for you.
Yeah, there's also a tendency when there's just the rainbows and lollipops period. You get out of detox, you spend maybe a week. It takes about 10 to 14 days. Your brain recalibrates, and then you're like, I feel good. I kind of like this sober thing. I'm me. And for whatever reason, and this is a real big challenge for me, it was this thought that I had to get right back to working. I had to go, because I always thought I'll go back doing what I was doing, get more clients, and I will get back up to where I was. And that was a fallacy. That was, in fact, now looking back, dangerous. That was something that I should have never chased. That cost me a lot of time. They say in AA, the only thing you have to change is everything. And you might not be able to go back to that job or that career or even that spouse. It just might not be possible. Like I said, you got to put it first to make it last.
God, and just the amount of strength that you have to have at every facet of this, Keith, is just, it's inspiring. It's crazy. What do you think makes you able to overcome all of this and be so strong and be where you are at in this journey, and other people just struggle so hard to try to attain what you have?
I think it's two things. One, I know if I drink, I die. I kind of knew that before, but I really know it now. And then secondly, it is the thrust of AA is to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. That is the thrust. So it's helping others. And Mine wasn't by sponsoring people and doing that, but I'm heavily involved in the church now. There's a lot of self-reflection and great gratitude, really. I think too many addicts or alcoholics underestimate how lucky they are. That hit me. It really did.
So from going from your first 2 AA meetings where you're like, God, they're really just talking about religion a lot to really like understanding that religion is just a huge community of support of people around you, or is that what you find with it?
Yeah, and I always, in AA they say it's not religious, it's spiritual, and that's a long story, but I got it. I always, for some reason, acknowledged and appreciated that spirituality was going to be a big part of this because I had a spiritual malady. I got it, and all I know is when I got heavily into God, and eventually I met a pastor, and they're starting a new church in Moore Park, of all places, and I learned how to pray, and I learned a lot, and it always made me feel better. It still wasn't enough, like I always say in the book. It still wasn't enough, but I had that taste of it. And just what I do now, it just happened, and a pastor asked me to go to lunch, and I just let it happen for the first time. Before it'd be like, I'd do it for a month, and then I'd have some excuse. I put it in my blog this week. I'm like, I always seem to have something else to do. I stopped going years ago to this church after a month. I stopped going. I don't know why. What did I want to do that was better, more important than recovery? I wanted to go to the beach, probably. It wasn't more important. So finally, I meandered back to the same church, and I'm doing great. But I'm only 7 months in right now, so my book's not about how to recover. I don't know how to do that. I am no expert on recovery. I just know things that hurt, and what increases my odds of potential success. That's all I know. My book's about 5 rehabs, but like you said, you have to want it, and it's a big deal. What I'm enjoying now is the fact that I enjoy being sober. Right? I like it.
Nice.
I don't understand when that happened or why, but I like what I do now. So I don't. You just got to get to that point, and early on. Let's say you're young, 23, and your first rehab. I'm forced you to go over. The judge nudged you there, and I don't want to be here. You will feel better. And then this happens all the time. I see it in our house all the time. They come in and they're happy for about a week or two. And then just the old habits, people, work, car, you name it, it always comes back, and it always ends badly. It's happening right now in our house. I see this happen every week. I used to try to intercept, but I just don't. I just tell others like Matt, just give it time, man. That person's not making recovery number one, and because of that, it's not going to last. That's all I can say. And you could tell some of these people, and they'll be like, I'm going to AA meetings and I have a sponsor, and okay, but you're still chasing a car and the girl in the house, and still that's all you talk about. So much stuff. I'm like, it's got to be number one.
Yeah, I don't think the chat knows that you're actually in a sober living house now in Hawaii, which to me in negative 13-degree weather is like, that's a magical place that you have to be very special to be able to live in Hawaii. I'm very jealous of you.
Got lucky. I'm in a unique situation. I live in a sober living house currently. I'm not deep into my recovery, so I wrote a whole book on rehabs, and I'm just starting too. So I'm no expert, man. I feel for you if you're just starting, and but I'm staying in the sober living house. This is the first time I got into this program. I did like pretty quickly devise an escape plan in my brain. Like, oh yeah, we get a job. I'm in a room. I've already tried that twice, by the way. I've tried that. It didn't work. This is the first time I got there. I'm like, I'm exactly where I need to be right now. And of course, I'm writing the second book, and it's on sober living houses, which is a different topic, and it's going to pick up this year because that's aftercare, that's the maintenance part of it that really the industry has. I won't say they've skipped, but I think the regulators have not acknowledged how important that bridge is. They call it bridge from the rehab and help or support along the way as you try to move forward. It's huge. This sober living program I'm in now is wonderful. I can't say enough about it.
They can be so hard. When I was a cop, I worked mostly burglary for quite a bit of my time as a detective. And we'd have a lot of problems. So you would have some house that sells off to a sober living, and now you've got these $1 million homes butted up behind a sober living house, and these guys would come over the wall, and there was just crime and drama. And like, if you can make it in sober living, like you're in it, you know? Like being your age and being forced to have that many roommates that are going through shit too. Like, I don't know. It's been a long time since I had a roommate. Like, you're stronger than the rest of the planet. Sober living is its own.
Yeah, you know, they're going to talk about regulating sober living houses. I don't think it's going to happen because you can't stop someone from purchasing a property and renting it out. Call it something else. Bridge housing, transitional housing. They're not going to be able to regulate sober living houses. And not only that, we need more, not less. You know how hard it is for someone to run a sober living house now? The liability alone, and they have to keep the prices low because otherwise people won't be able to afford to get in. There's just a lot to it. I just respect it. And I wish there were more. I mean, I see Aloha is a wonderful rehab, and it's got good connections. And they just recently, this is kind of a trend in the industry that they have their own sober living house operation now. So now they have they bought an apartment complex and they're sending their people there, and it's very well structured. I think that's going to be a trend. Ours is pretty well connected to the courts and drug court and others, Aloha House too. They're connected, so there's this transition and communication about the importance of following this person through on their journey instead of, like I said in my book, swatting you on the fanny and saying good luck. The door. That didn't always happen. Right. I mean, I've had some AIA, Rick Hughes, people were calling afterward 2 months later saying, "How you doing, man? Just checking in." That was cool. A few others did that, but not all. They don't. That's the big thing. I don't want to get into policy, but with Trump and Kennedy's new recovery initiative, the big thing is they're going to focus on outcomes, results. It's like a business. We're going to treat it like how you treated that person, but I think they're going to incentivize. The longer the person stays in recovery, you might make more money. I think they're going to incentivize to extend that service. That's what I think the nut of it is. But I don't know yet. It just started.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the plan, it seems like, it's good that we are talking about it, that they're acknowledging that it's a disease and that it's not, you just deciding that you want to have these problems in your life, and also understanding that we need to put more funds to it, because as much as I hate paying taxes, Keith, like I came from the hellhole of California and I moved to the sleepy Midwest thinking that they would get out of my freaking paycheck, and they don't. It's gimme, 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 gimme all the time. But I think what people don't understand, because we think like, oh, well, why would I pay for somebody sober living? Like, you are paying for addiction, because these people are going to ERs and having medical problems and crime to afford the drugs and all of this. We're already paying so much, and it's a bottomless pit. And if we can help somebody like you not only attain what you have attained, which is just absolutely monumental and so amazing, but now you being able to help others that are just behind you in line, like, come on, let's all go. I think in the end, it will be just so helpful for society, for economics, for all of it. I think what's crazy to me is because, obviously we grew up pre-legalized marijuana, and it's freaking everywhere. Even this morning, I was in line at McDonald's because that is my addiction, is junk food. The guy in front of me just like, what are you doing? Like, oh, he's just smoking weed in his car. Like, bro, like, get out of line then. If you need to like get high, it takes 22 seconds to get out of the line in McDonald's. Like, why are you doing? And just the amount of people and just the amount of marijuana everywhere. And it's become so normalized, even, not to rat out my neighbors, I don't think they know that I even have a show, so it's fine. But they said to me that their daughter, who is it's her birthday. Great. What are you guys going to do? My internet. So I said, oh, great. What are you guys going to do for her birthday? And they were going to buy her drugs. That's what they're going to do to celebrate their young child's. I mean, she's an adult, but like your brain is still forming. And there's so much that people are just either unaware of or blissfully ignorant or whatever about mental illness, about early drug use and having problems with bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, and all of the stuff. And people just think, well, I just want to Oompa Loompa now. And it's a different time, Keith. We're like encouraging people to be drunk and high.
They didn't, the thing about marijuana is no one's really done long-term studies on it. Meaning it's just like the problem with a lot of pharmaceuticals and vaccines. They do these clinical trials at the beginning, but very limited, and they don't come back 10, 15, 40 years later and go, is that client better off today than before they started these interventions? And what they're learning now after 40 years, some of these vaccines weren't really the best.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with marijuana, not only have some people now been on it for 4 or 5 decades, the quality of the marijuana is just exponentially stronger. So who knows what crazy chemicals are in that pot. I mean, I couldn't take one hit off a joint right now. I'd be so baked. I for me, I turn into, it's just coma weed. And
they say it's
people are
20
smoking that stuff
more potent.
they're smoking that stuff every day. I'm like, eventually the human brain is a amazing organ, but it wasn't designed to be bombed with dopamine all the time. It wasn't designed for that.
Yeah.
It's going to malfunction, and that's we're seeing it now. And I see I'm just starting to see cases of old timers about my age, and like they've been smoking pot for a long time, and it's just now. I wonder why they're not doing well mentally. Well, long-term effects.
Yeah, and I guess the argument is always like, well, it's natural, but I mean, so is arsenic, belladonna, like. I mean, we got some things that are natural.
Opiates.
It's totally GMO. It's been genetically modified for more THC. But I think what people also don't realize, and there was just a huge arrest out of Oklahoma, and it was like $1.something billion enterprise, Chinese mafia in Oklahoma that was like playing this shell game of buying these like marijuana grow co-ops, but it was all really run by the Chinese mafia, and a bunch of people were just recently arrested. Terrible for the economy. And to make it legalized, I mean, even in Denver, Colorado, I think was the first in the United States to go legal. And there were horrible stories out of Denver that that one woman that called 911 and said, we ate these gummies. I don't know what happened. Like, we feel crazy. Help us, help us. And she's on the phone with 911 when her husband goes and to the safe. And he says, the world is ending. He's going to get a gun. He wants me to shoot him. And she's on the phone with 911 when he goes and kills her in front of their kids. And I mean, and that's weed. And they said the guy in Miami-Dade that ate the face off the other guy on the bridge, the Miami-Dade coroner said that was marijuana only. And I guess, like, I grew up with, I guess, your friend's brother. That's so crazy, Keith. And I won't dime anybody out, but there were people that were doing stuff like that when I was, a young teen and knew those guys. And I guess I was just more of like a fraidy cat. So, and then, there was all the straight edge guys from Thousand Oaks and Strife and all those guys. And I don't know that I was necessarily like straight edge, like I didn't wear X's or anything. But I don't know, I guess maybe I was a fraidy cat. And then maybe I got old enough where it was like, okay, well, I'm not going to start now. I don't know. But do you think there'll be more of a resurgence? I mean, because punk is still very much like alive and well. Do you think there'll be a resurgence of more of like a conservative, straight edge sort of scene?
That's a tough call. what's going to dictate that is the reaction of the younger folks. Because at our age, we're pretty stratified. We're either like we are, or we're still as we were at 17 and mad at everything. But will young people understand that punk is not just rebelling for the sake of rebelling. It was to summarize it. You have to remember how punk rock started. The 70s music scene was terrible. It wasn't rock and roll. Rock and roll was only 20 years old, and rock and roll started with a guy with a drum kit, a bass, and a guitar, Buddy Holly in Lubbock, Texas, playing music, or Elvis Presley with his acoustic. That's it. That's all you needed. Anyone could be a rock star, and it just progressed to the point where Led Zeppelin and Yes, and they had lasers, and it cost too much to go to a concert, and the punks wanted to do it yourself. At that point they couldn't just start a rock and roll band. They like, it's too complicated. You have keyboards and synthesizers and laser shows, and no, he needs a guitar, bass, and a drum kit. That's it. And that's the original, point of when punk broke. It goes into a lot of other things, like how you think and how you approach life, and don't just accept mainstream opinions. Question authority, certainly. But will the punks? I think it's going to take a couple of artists, and I'm not sure how it works now with the way music works, but it's going to take a couple of artists to really break it open again. I mean, it kind of happened with Nirvana, followed by Green Day and Offspring, and it came back. Something fierce. That's how Rancid, they got lucky with a couple ska songs during that period, and it stayed pretty strong for a good 20 years. But right now, the entire music industry is in the doldrums. I mean, there's nothing good out there. Spotify or Amazon Music will periodically ship me a new song, and every time I look at the date, it's like 3-4 years old already. I'm like, where's the new stuff? I think it's gonna take one artist, a Joe Strummer Jr. type, to come forward and really start speaking the truth, and then it's a matter of if young people accept it. I'm not sure. TikTok's a disaster, and everyone's attention span is so short right now. I'm not sure. It's not a good time to try to make money with deep thinking. Video, TikTok, it's just too much. Too much cheap money making. It's clickbaiting, which I've been aligning with masturbating. That guy's a clickbaiter. That's how to me, that's a big insult. What a clickbaiter! I would never get into that. That's just that. Who does stuff like that? But they do, and here we are.
Yeah, it's not even just the drugs and alcohol that you have to be worried about now. It's the scrolling, it's the pornography, it's all of this just dopamine, just stimulation. Yeah. And I remember just back in the day, the punk shows were, you had a long wait between bands, and like there weren't lasers, and not everybody's guitar was in tune, and like you had to have a lot of patience. Not all the bands were good, and there were times when it would get shut down, and like that's not going to happen at a mega arena. So
yeah, where do they play? That's a good question. And there's Mike Watt of the Minutemen, the bassist. Mike Watt, he joined a band called Firehose in the late 80s, and first time I saw him was at Cal State Northridge, and they were coming, and I was so stoked that I was the opinion editor of the paper, so I wrote a whole column that just said why you need to go see Firehose this Monday. It was free on campus. They were coming onto campus to play for free at like 2 p.m. So this is why you should go. I can't even remember what I wrote, but during the show, Mike Watt stood up and goes, "Hey man, someone wrote this article," and he held it up. And I was like, and then the show ended, and I went up and I go, "Hey, I wrote that article." He goes, "That was cool, man. Thank you, brother." I don't know if you know Mike Watt. He's always got a flannel on. And years later, like 2-3 years later, we went and saw him in La Jolla, of all places. Me and my friend Mark Benner, who's at the beginning of the book, and my brother, and we saw him, and we're at the bar, and it was dry, so we were just standing outside, and Mike Watt walked by, and he's got you can't miss him. He's in a flannel. We're like, "Dude, it's Mike Watt." And like, "Hey, dudes, what's going on, man?" Just chatted with us during the show. Me and my friend Mark, at first, we didn't vibe a bit. We our running joke is like, "Play My Generation." We always yell at any band, "You play My Generation." But for whatever reason, Mark yelled, "Play a quick one," which is like a complicated Who song with like 3 or 4 parts, like the first rock opera. Mark's like, so I joined him. We're like, "Play a quick one, play a quick one." they take up their encore, they come back out, and they sure as shit they played a quick one, and it was perfect. It was like we were just, I couldn't believe it. And on the way out, Mike Watt was at the door, like shaking hands of people leaving. I mean, that's punk rock right there, man.
Yeah.
You don't get that normal rock and roll. It was a high of the highs. I don't think we drank the rest of the night. We're like, wow, Mike, we hung out with Mike Watt, and he was cool. That's what you didn't get in the 70s when, I hate to blame Yes, there's a whole bunch of them. Art rock, that was something else.
The only day I ever skipped high school, which my mom still doesn't know about, I went to go see Fugazi at the Palladium, and we were sitting on skateboards in the parking lot, like way early for the show. And Guy comes over, and like each one of them trickled over, and we were doing like a Chewbacca puzzle, like sitting on skateboards, like in the parking lot. And he was like, "Oh, you guys are coming to the show," and we were like, "Oh my God, it's fucking, you're the guy, you're the one," whatever. And he said, "Were we going to go tomorrow?" And we said, "Oh no, we only have tickets for tonight." And he put us on the list. Oh no, maybe we didn't have tickets that night. We just wanted to go hang out in the parking lot. God, it's been so many years. That was like 90, 89, whatever it was. And he put us on the list. We were put on Fugazi's list, and we're like 16 years old. And it was just the coolest thing that has ever happened in my entire life, like how accessible they were. And now you look at these like stars and celebrities, they're not like people, And I think that was what I really miss about punk rock, is it was so DIY and it was so attainable. Like you could be on that stage too. I was in a shitty band.
Go ahead. I want to hear about this.
I was just saying, Drum Zombies in the chat. I played drums in a shitty band, terrible band. They put out a couple of records after they kicked me out, but I couldn't even play the bass pedal. I sat on my stool with my legs crisscross applesauce, and like we
awesome.
Still got shows. Like we were that terrible. Yeah.
Getting back to that, the way real punk rockers think, me and Karen, my friend, I'm at her house right now. This is her studio. We went to a punk rock bowling in Vegas in 23, and we saw Rancid. And during the show, they're the headliner, so everyone's packed. We're like second. We're not on the rail, but we're close. We're off to the side, and that barricade thing fell mid-song. So it falls. We just see the big rush. It's kind of scary because, what can happen at concerts. All I remember was the song ended and Tim Armstrong sat on the stage and got ready to jump down there to hold the dang thing up. I'll never forget that. He was getting ready to go, and then he saw that the security had put it up and caught it. Everyone backed off. Everyone was cool, but I'll never forget. He dropped his guitar, was getting ready to jump in the fray, and I'm like, that's punk rock right there.
Yeah. Just those old Fugazi songs, like, hey, give them some room, like, that we would all sort of police each other, moshing, that it was supposed to be fun. It wasn't supposed to be for injuries. Like,
it got a little too aggressive near the end. I saw Public Image Limited in '85, and Johnny Rotten came out, and they played Kashmir at first, which was really, he came out to Led Zeppelin's Kashmir, Johnny Rotten. But he played, and someone kept spitting on him. He's like, and he stopped this thing. He's like, "Look, mother effer, if you spit on me again, man, I'm gonna kick your teeth out. I'm leaving." And he's up there, and he sings one more song, maybe the fourth song, and a whole beer got thrown at him and just splashed off him. And he just held out the microphone, dropped it, waved, and left. Game over at the Palladium. And it was like right after 4th of July, so people are shooting fireworks off in there, and it was like, this is good days of punk rock. It don't happen anymore. It's like the fire marshal was warning us, and Johnny Rotten left, and he's like, "Don't be spitting on me." That's how aggressive it got near the end. These are artists we paid to see, and you're throwing beer on them.
I was recently telling a story also at the Palladium of seeing Jane's Addiction and Perry getting hit with a shoe, and he just went crazy, and he was like, "I'm out of here." And how the LA Weekly was comparing it to a show similar of the Cramps, where Lux got hit with a shoe. And he poured wine in it and drank out of the shoe through the back. The show went on. Like, how kind of different it was back then versus like now. There's a hypersensitivity. As much as people are constantly seeking that dopamine hit, there's also a hypersensitivity nowadays that didn't exist back then. You know, you're in the pit, somebody hits you with an elbow, like it's not, the fight isn't on. You understand we're all having fun here. It's not going to start a fight.
Yeah, that's a, you know what, right now, in the last few years, everyone's identified in 4,000 different ways. And I actually said at one point in my book, you know, how are they identify people nowadays? So everyone who goes, it's the opposite of punk. Punk's like, show up in your flannel, who cares? I don't care if you have long hair. It don't matter. But now you're identified. You're either old or young, Democrat, Republican, Trump, not Trump. Everyone's pretty much labeled, and you're pretty much stuck with it. And I don't believe in any of that stuff. I'm like, I don't really care what color you are. You could be polka dot. It really doesn't matter to me. My son's named after Hank Aaron, black baseball player. It never mattered to me. And that's how real punkers are. But now it's like identifying, and the whole Trump derangement. That's a mental illness onto its own. Story for another day. Story for another day. But we're all identified. See, it's the opposite of punk.
Right. Yeah. Drum Zombie says Perry is a diva. It's like now, like I would have never pictured, you know, heroin addicted Perry Farrell to be like all, you know, with the face and all the plastic surgery and stuff. It's just like, that's so not punk rock. Like we're all going to look like Yoda. Who gives a shit? Like, why are you doing that to your face?
He's not terribly punk. I mean, Dave ended up being, you know, the band. I mean, we all eventually, I think, came to realize that Navarro, that guy's a talent. Huh.
Yeah, that was a hard show because after he took off, and they had many more songs to play. I have got the set list somewhere. Then Dave Navarro walked off, like, okay, fine, screw you. And it's like nobody even threw a shoe at you. And then like Eric and Steve look at each other like, what do we do? Like, so they jammed for a little bit. They were like, I guess the show's over. And it was just so disappointing. Like, come on, like it didn't even hurt you. Jacob on Rumble says, there's Terry Jacks with Season in the Sun, worst song of the 70s, possibly ever. That piece of dog shit was a huge hit. That says it all right there about 70s pop. I love Rancid. Out Come the Wolves is a pure masterpiece.
Thank you. That's my favorite. I just heard it yesterday, front to back. I still laugh about how good it is. Yeah, it might be the best album ever. Thank you.
Yeah, well,
getting to that, punk rock and Rancid, and bands. There are two bands that I really stuck with in my recovery, and that's Social Distortion and Rancid. And those two guys their leaders have been sober for a long time.
Yeah.
And, Tim has a lot of songs that he doesn't talk about the drinking, but it's there. You know, 11th Hour. That's about a girl, you know, on her ropes. She's on the ropes. She's a wounded dove, and the hawks flying above. That's what he says. You know, it's good stuff. He's been sober a long time.
Yeah. I mean, Social Distortion, that White Light, the whole album, masterpiece. Like that is one of, you know,
Dear Love,
Desert Island. You can have 5 records. Like that's got to be one of them. Absolutely.
There's something about that record. Actually, it's funny that the drummer for their big albums, is self-titled, next to he owns a place in Long Beach now called the Pike, and one of his bartenders, young guys, I met at Salvation Army, and that was Richard Calmet. He's probably watching right now, and he's the one who eventually gave the Salvation Army the finger and went to Redgate, and then got sober. I started seeing him. I'm like, look, what's he doing? I want that. So Richard really, it was a big transition out of the Salvation Army, the depths of hell, to slowly get back on my feet. But that's Social Distortion. You know, that's a sober band, man. You want to be in that band, you got to stay sober. That's just it. You know, he talks about, it's funny because you did the thumbnail with that, you know, Evil Keith and Good Keith, and Mike Ness talks about that a lot in a lot of his songs. You know, the evil. And, you know, now I'm starting to see it. And I go, now I really know what he's talking about. I really do. So
yeah, because he's been through some shit too, for sure.
Oh yeah, his story's hellacious.
Mm-hmm.
That you know, I thought about it. You know, I don't think anyone who reads my book, family, friends, are going to know that I did heroin. And Mike Ness, that was part of his story. I mean, he went to county jail for a year for possession of heroin. And you know, someone in my 40s thinking I was going to be doing that stuff is just to this day is unfathomable. You know, I'm like, was I doing and why? It's just dark. That's why I did a whole chapter on 2017. There's a lot of dark stuff that happened that year, and I knew it had to get out. I didn't want to bury it because it was a period when I'm not in rehab, so I had to explain that. That was the year that I decided I'm not going to rehab, no matter what. I'm not going. I'm sick of it. I've already done it 3 times or whatever. I'm not going. I really mentally fought rehab, and it almost killed me. That's why I did 2017 as a standalone chapter. It's really important, and I had to put all that stuff out there because I'm trying to tell other people, look, if you're going to rehab, you have a problem. If you're going to more than one, you have a serious problem, and if you fight going again, you might not be with us much longer. I mean, I shouldn't be here. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, you've been through it, Keith, and just so we met on Facebook on one of the punk rock groups, and just going through your profile and seeing those pictures, like the super happy on the beach, like just life is great, Keith, and then I see this photo of you with 2 black eyes and just looking so fucked, like a totally different lifetime. And they're both you. And they're like, tell us about that horrible meatloaf face that you have up there, and what it takes to be able to put a picture of you like that up there, I guess.
That photo was taken just before I went into Aloha House number 3 when I read the book. So that's like, I lost my balance. I mean, like, it just goes away. I don't know what it is. I fall a lot. And I had these 2 enormous black eyes, and I can't remember if I took the picture or Karen did. That I went right from there up to Aloha House. Then I wrote the book. I got into the rehab, and I was called Raccoon for a good week. I still had the black eyes. I started writing my book, and that's when that happened. And what's scary about it is it wasn't that long ago. A real eye-opening situation for this round of recovery was the foreword for my book. James had read a lot of the chapters, and I wrote his foreword, so he wanted to write mine, and I agreed. And he wrote his foreword. I finally get it after my book's pretty much done. So I'm reading. It's just like mine, where we met, playing softball, and punk rock, and through the years, and his business grew and everything. But then he went right off into like all these details about how I ended up in the sober living house that I'm in right now. And I'm reading it. There's a lot of details, I'm like, well, my book's already long. This is a lot of like gory details. I don't know if that's terribly important. Originally, my idea was to split it in half, and I told him, and he talked me out of it. Saying it belongs all in one. And ultimately, I just ran it like it is. I didn't change anything. And the funny part about that story is, I read this thing, and as I'm reading it, he's telling me things that I don't know. I didn't know how I got to Choppers. I thought James came all the way to Hawaii in July just to hang out and celebrate the publication of his book. So James is coming for 4 days. Yay! Didn't matter. I couldn't stop even for a day. And he went through this and how I had 14 scabs all over me, could barely walk, and how they got me into Chopper's place. That all goes right up to my current sitting. That's just a few months ago. That's the scary part about those black eyes. That was 2024. That wasn't that long ago. Yeah. So I'm not far removed from hell. So when I talk about stubbing my toe or a squirrel running by, it's true. So if you're early in recovery or thinking about it, you probably have a problem. And as soon as you can acknowledge that and accept that, you can't do this alone and that you need help, as soon as you accept that and then be grateful that you're getting the help that you're getting and grateful for what you have, the easier it'll be. That's the way I see it. I mean, I look back going, man, I just chopped a decade off my life. It's been 10 years. I don't really remember having anything to show for it, but you don't have to do that. If you acknowledge that it's an illness, it's a mental illness, it's really, really severe, and it's life-threatening, and it needs to be treated like that, just like my glaucoma story. I mean, if I don't take those drops at night, I won't be able to see in 15 years. That's a pretty big deal. So when I look at it that way, all of a sudden I'm using the drug. But why didn't I quit drinking? If you keep drinking, you can die in 5 or 10 years. That didn't slow me down. I guess I didn't want to be blind. I can't put 2 and 2 together. It's like, I've been around people who got wet brain. They drank for a long time, and they got wet brain where they're not there anymore. They're gone. It's irrevocable. You can't heal it. They're just on the streets insane, and they're all over there. In Long Beach, they're here. They drank that one extra drop, and it gave them, wet brain. And it's really sad. It's like, oh, that person, there's no coming back from it. And there's nowhere to go now. There's no, permanent insane asylum or that's the big gap in Everyone talks about the homeless situation. Homeless is a big problem, but a bigger one in America right now is mental health. We have a
Yeah.
huge mental health crisis right now on a variety of fronts. It's all over, every age, street, city, country, you name it. We have a mental health problem, and I open some eyes to that. I'm not an expert on it. I don't pretend to be, but I see it. I see it.
And I think that was part of the problem because you have so many problems and the government tries to fix them, but all they can do is come up with ideas and throw money at things and see what happens. But when they did Prop 47, Prop 57, and AB 109, I think that was like 2016-ish. And they took away that ability for us to arrest for certain things. And that arrest was how we could mandate you to go into a diversion program, that we would pay for you to go into some sort of treatment program. And so I'm hoping that with Trump bringing in this new recovery initiative, that it will somehow convince California that this diversion program was sort of our forced way of being able to introduce people into places that maybe their insurance wouldn't. And don't even get me started about medical insurance, because like working now for fire paramedic department, it's disgusting what people in suits decide that you need or don't need. It's just wrong.
You just summarize it. That's the whole industry. That's the problem with. We don't have healthcare here. We have sick care, and
and it's also just a mafia.
Absolutely, extremely rich people, pushing us around. It's not gonna last forever. Kennedy started that ball rolling, and I'm not sure they can stop it now. It's fun to watch.
Yeah. I really, in all the people that I voted for, and of course we didn't vote for Kennedy, but we got him as part of our vote. I think I'm the most pleased with the work that he's done. So I don't know. I was a default Democrat growing up, and I can definitely say I'm not a leftist. But I don't know if RFK was to run.
I don't think he will. He's kind of old, and I don't think his wife will let him do it. But
I don't know. Yeah,
I was a Democrat for 10 years. I was a Republican for 15. And I've been independent for over 10. I've been independent longer than anything. So I've been all three, and I've worked for politicians and the parties. I read a fascinating book a few months ago. It's called Washington's Farewell. It's about George Washington's farewell address after 8 years of being the first president of the United States. And just by him deciding to step aside was a big deal, because when people wanted him to be king, they didn't know what we were going to do. So Washington, he got a lot of help from Hamilton and others to create this farewell address. And the key 2 points that he really emphasized over and over and over again was the dangers of political parties and foreign interference in our affairs. Those two things Washington warned about, and that's it. Those two things are exactly what our biggest problem is right now. Now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's foreign interference. Everything we're seeing is foreign interference into our affairs. That's everything that Trump's fighting. Everything.
Right. And just this whole idea of civil service becoming this get-rich-quick scheme. And I don't know how you do that. How do you stop somebody like a Pelosi to get on my soapbox? Even if you say you're not allowed to play the stock market, like, of course, she's going to tell the neighbor over the hedge what to do and get some kickbacks under the table. Corruption is corruption. I don't know. Humanity has changed. And I don't think there's any law, just like with gun laws. All you're doing is taking guns away from good people. It's like, a gate that's anybody can just walk around. So I don't know how you legislate people into becoming human again and giving a shit about each other. There was a point where we used to.
Yeah, that's also a huge issue. It's Kennedy. He said in his campaign, he goes, "We will start unifying and getting past our differences when we love our children more than we hate ourselves." And that's how he's approached everything from health of children perspective. Everything. That's where he starts. Then it gets onto the rest of us. For me, the big thing with my recovery has been health. move a lot because I'm getting older and I have arthritis problems, and I eat better, and I quit sugar a few years ago, and I feel, not only do I feel better, I think better, and that's what Kennedy's trying to emphasize. But yeah, as soon as we start loving ourselves more than we hate our enemies, I think we'll make progress. But personally, I think it's going to take a person. I don't know who it is. I don't. I think it's going to take a leader who's really going to step up and speak well. Like, John F. Kennedy was rebellious he was the youngest president ever. He was Catholic, you name it. He stepped into that office with a whole bunch of issues going on, Soviet Union and nuclear arms and Cuba. He was only there 3 years. It was his brother Robert who I wrote a book on Robert Kennedy about. Most amazing man I've ever read about. It's like, wow, that guy behind the scenes and what he juggled. It was like just an amazing book. And but you look at Kennedy and he was a leader. The whole it always gets back to me. It's like, that's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Where'd that go?
You just got a bunch of Karens like ripping each other up on fucking Facebook. And I think that's a lot of it is like, I don't know if one person is going to lead us out of this. I think we all kind of need to, help each other, just sort of like a mosh pit. Yeah, there can be chaos around you, but it also can be organized, and you also can be helpful. And it also can be, a scene. When I think about, 16-year-old me, like going to these shows, it's like nobody was against anybody there. Somebody falls down in the pit and you pick them up and then you shove into them, and it's all just like a dance. And now it's so adversarial. And I belong to this other group on Facebook. I won't name it because they're a bunch of cunts, but it's nothing but bickering and like, show me your ID card. Who, it's like that, what was that punk song? Oh, well, there's been a lot of them, but basically like, show me your punk ID card. Like, how long have you been punk? Like, whatever kind of crap.
Yeah. No, that's right about that. When did punk rock become so tame? I always remembered that. And of course, now they're involved with politics too. I'm like, I saw a show with NoFX and Pennywise a long time ago when they were against Bush. This is like probably 04, 06, I don't know. But it was a show at the Hollywood Palladium. No, it was House of Blues. And it was NoFX and Pennywise. So NoFX comes out and, all their, at the time, we hate Bush, all the stuff we still see now. And in between, Jello Biafra got to talk. Then he shows up, this little guy. We're high voice saying we gotta fight Bush. And all the Pennywise fans are like, get off the stage. It's like, and NoFX stuck with that until he got a lot of complaints. And Fat Mike's like, all right, man, just wait till the end of the election. We swear we won't talk about politics anymore. And of course, Bush won, and they never talked about politics for a long time. And then they come out like this month with an anti-ICE thing. And I'm like, did you learn anything?
No.
That's not why people listen to your music. That's not why people listen to you or punk rock. This would be sermonized. I don't care which way it goes. That's not my tune.
Yeah, but I mean, so Youth of Today does that. He's talking to you about all this stuff. And the last time I saw Jawbreaker actually was at the Palladium. And holy shit, did he try to give us like an earful of like, we're not a party band. We're not going to just play the hits. Like, bro, just play the hits. Like, that's what we're here. Like, Boat Dreams on a Hill. Like, this is all we want. We came for. Like, and so he wanted to play all these like slow ballads and shit that nobody had heard before. And like, it was just like, it was punishment. Like, why are we buying a ticket then? Like, if you want to do your own crap, do it on your own time. We came for Boat Dreams on a Hill. You're only a true punk if you shop at Hot Topic, and Rod is laughing at him.
I hate that because I'm older. If I go to these punk groups, they see me, white beard, and then of course, I'm not a MAGA guy. I'm centrist, man. I'm registered independent. I lean a little bit right. I just believe in less government intervention. I'm a Reagan Republican, is what I am. But God forbid I lean a little too far in any comment. I just get dogpiled. So the best Facebook feature I think they ever invented, it says, turn off notifications for this post. That's my favorite. Love that.
Oh,
so you can drop a truth bomb in there. They're gonna dogpile on you. And then you just turn off notifications going through your day. You don't even know. Oh man, my stress level went down so much when I learned that little trick. Yeah. So you post like, this is my opinion, then you leave. It's great. I know it's not the most ethical, but
the group that we're in seems like a night. It's the punk rock conservatives group, and it just seems like it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not super political. It just feels like real cool. I think that's why I stay a member of the other group, just to see like the the total polar opposite of like every stupid post is so vacuous and it still gets people in a tizzy. It's wild.
That's the other part of it, is because now everyone is just so polarized. It's like I can't even describe it. But we're all living in a silo. So we find the station we like or the group we like, and that's always, if the group gets out of hand and it sucks, we get out of it. So now we're not getting the LA Times and the New York Times and whatever 4 or 5, even TV, where you get kind of a balanced view, and they all nowadays every single newspaper has the same headline right away. They all got the same conclusion. You're like, how'd that happen? In the old days, you're not in a silo. You're getting a very broad range of opinions and ideas. And that doesn't happen anymore, especially with social media, because, I mean, that's where I hang out. I hang out on Substack, the guys I subscribe to, because I like the way they think. Well, how do they think? A lot like me. So I'm, if people are over the top, far left, crazy liberal, I'm not going to even bother with them. And now you can block them. Mute that off there. I don't want to see it. Well, that's not healthy either. I like hearing everything. Just the way I am. I'm just curious that way. I want to see what makes things tick. So
I think
anyway,
I doom scroll more than you, Keith. I think I'm doom scrolling more than you.
I was pretty bad. I'm just getting better now. I'm in recovery from doom scrolling. That's the way I'd like to put it.
I think I kind of like it. It's sort of like sitting in a hot car with the windows rolled up till you can't take anymore. There's a pastor of the Salvation Army here in Kalui who he runs a AA/Bible study kind of a joint mix every Wednesday night, and he's got the same phone issue. What he does in his office is he takes his phone and he puts it on a chair across the room so he can see it, but he can't touch it. So he knows it's there if it rings and everything. He says it works. I haven't tried it, but he just puts it on a chair like it's in timeout. It's awesome. Oh wow. Yeah, mine's just permanently on silent.
It doesn't help when it's part of your...
Let's catch up with the chat. So let's see. South Park song burn, burn, hot topic. Don't let them take your soul away. I guess I've never seen South Park. I've never saw that. Jake says, in the end of the day, government's about control, no matter who's running it. But if everyone took some time to change 1 or 2 things about themselves for the better, I like that. That's where the real change would come from, in the real evolution of the return of the Christ, i.e. the higher self. Yeah, I do think, like you're saying, that the religious component or the church component of your recovery is important. I mean, I think not just for recovery, but I just think for humanity to have a purpose, and not just my purpose is to pay enough taxes that I have enough money for retirement and, eat, consume shit, like this rat race that we're all kind of in, that there should be some purpose to life, some interconnectivity. And I think America's kind of gotten away from that. You see places like Japan that are one cog in a whole machinery of wheels that you all kind of work interconnected. I think America doesn't really feel that way anymore.
Well, there's a lot of control.
Punk. Drum Zombie says Jesus was punk. Yeah,
he was a rebel. He rebelled against the rules. He was a rebel.
Yeah. And let's roll the entire episode for context. No Circle of One. You can go watch whatever it is, South Park. I want to hear the hits when I go to a concert. The new stuff just doesn't do it if I don't know it. You're so right. I have a concert coming up, and I have to get to know the new albums. Otherwise, I'm going to feel like I had a bad time, because I know they won't play the old hits just for me. Well, I wanted to ask you, I have a couple of things, and it's all kind of out of order, but I wanted to ask you, I know there's been some news about this ibogaine stuff. Have you heard of it at all? It's sort of like a psychedelic trip that supposedly 80% of people on the first dose completely recover from addictive tendencies, and 90% after the second. It's called ibogaine, and I've just heard about it in my travels on the interwebs. But it's a psychedelic, and I guess there are other psychedelics that people use for addiction recovery. I don't even want to take an aspirin if I don't have to. So the idea, if I was in recovery, turning to a drug would scare me. But how do you feel about that? Have you seen anybody successfully use psychedelics?
Kennedy actually talks about it. I wouldn't be surprised if they really explore it. The problem is if something works, no one studies it, so it never gets approved, so we don't get it. That's been the problem. Because they don't study anything because it costs money, and the pharmaceutical companies won't fund things that will cure people. So Kennedy's talked about the psychedelics. I know from my experience when I was taking the gummies, I felt pretty good. It helped with the anxiety. And these were gummies where I knew if I took 2, I felt really good. I'd be on the bus just enjoying the view and everything. But I took 3, it was too much. But I don't know anything about that current. I'm not convinced on any pill we can take to get better for this. I think it's a broken brain without some type of real fine-tuned surgery. I don't think it's going to be fixed. I think it'll always still be there. So something like that, again, we get back to the long-term effects. We don't know. A couple of people had success with it. Who paid for that study? That's what I'd want to know right off the bat.
Yeah. You always hear about people like tripping acid, decades later while they're just walking through the grocery store. It sounds terrifying. So I've never tried it, but I guess with the ibogaine, you go through sort of like the ghost of Christmas past comes to visit you and shows you like all the terrible things that you went through in your life and rewires it to take all that PTSD and all those coping mechanisms away, that now you can see your life as a series of events that don't have that emotional component that makes you crave some sort of relief or release through addiction. And that's just my take on it from hearing people that have gone through it, but it's really interesting.
It sounds like years ago, I chewed tobacco for 40 years. So I quit smoking in 99, but I kept chewing. And in 2002, I got hypnotized. Someone talked me into it. It's like $220, and she hypnotized me, and I literally went to my car and I had half a can of chew, just threw it out the window. I didn't chew for a couple of years. Eventually, I cheated on a long drive, and it's just like alcohol. It was like 1 turns to 2, turns to 8, and you're gone. But it worked. And I asked her, how'd you do that? And she says they walk your mind to a point before you started using tobacco. So I remember she was talking, I'm out. I didn't know it, but you remember everything. And she was talking about high school. Like, when did you not smoke? And I had to think back deep, like, I don't know, junior year, senior year, somewhere around there. I didn't smoke when I played baseball. I just remember that. And so somehow they trick your brain into going to that point, so that when you're done, you're still stuck there and you don't remember the joys or whatever. So I didn't shoot. They say it's one of 3 things that can cure alcoholism. One's hypnotism, but what they found is it doesn't last, which is exactly my experience. But that's what it sounds like. Like somehow there's a pill or a chemical that gets you before you started. That's what it sounds like. It's fascinating, but like I said, they could do clinical trials of 18 people and say, hey, 17 did good and we're all safe, and then we don't really know the long-term effects of this. I would be I won't be skeptical. I'm doing well right now. If you're doing something that's working well, why change it?
Yeah, for sure.
Right now, I'm not changing anything. They're like, hey, Keith, you want to go do this? Everything now for me goes through a filter for my recovery. I got to pour through that filter. Last time I did that, bad things happened, or, I know it's going to aggravate me. Or I still go out with Karen and her friends to bars. I don't drink. Some of them might have 1 drink, but we don't get hammered, and we leave, and I even dance sober. It's weird. It's fun. I'm terrible at it, but, I still go out, but there's other things I'm just like, I just know that's going to aggravate the hell out of me. And, I'm out. And that's a hard thing when you're young, because you still got to work, and work's going to agitate you. You're going to hate your boss. And relationships, the 2 things that knock more people out of recovery is relationships and not getting the help you need. Those two things right there. That was from a counselor in Aloha House. He said relationships are just a real danger zone, and then not getting the help you need. So, if you're not pursuing getting help, you might have a real long road ahead of you. And it's in my book kind of explains some of the dangers.
Yeah, and hopefully we can return back, because you say that you're a Reagan conservative, but he was the one who took away the 5150 being only a 72-hour hold, and there are people who need help beyond 72 hours. And so although he did a lot of great things, like that was one thing that really I guess, tied the hands of law enforcement to be able to use some of these government programs to truly help the people that can be helped.
I have a lot of experience with psych wards, by the way. That's probably my third book, because I've done at least 25. And I used it. I learned it from the streets, where, you're on the streets and you're tired and you're just beat up and just hungry. You just want to be, some quiet time. Well, it's probably nationwide, but in California, if you tell the hospital or 911 that you're suicidal, you're going to go to a psych ward. It's automatic. It's like a free ride. So I would just 911 on myself, get the ride, get fed, bathed. It's like a week vacation. So I did it a lot. I admit it. And, there are people that they're just still doing it. I did it a lot because it was super easy and it was helpful. But I see people on the streets, they won't do that because they don't have to be told what to do, and they don't get to do what they like to do, which is be free, do whatever they want. And I see people in the streets, and there's just they're not going to get help in 14 days. They've got to be helped. They got to get off the street. They're going to get hurt, or they're going to hurt someone else. This happens all the time. I don't know what the solution is. It probably is reopening the big psych wards, maybe changing the rules so they don't force people into it permanently. That was kind of drastic. But the problem now is, where do you build them? Everyone's going to be, all the NIMBYs are going to be like, you're not building that near my house. In Camarillo, there was a huge Camarillo State Hospital. It was huge. Mm-hmm. And of course, Reagan did that, and they closed the hospital. It was vacant for a long time. Well, they since made it into a four-year university, so it can't be a psych ward anymore. Where are they going to? We can't build enough jails in California. You're going to build all these psych wards now, and it seems to me that they need them.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, because hopefully, if Gavin Newsom wants to run for president, he's going to have to show people that he knows how to run something and not run it into the ground. And it's just, I fled that state for many reasons, but we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. But we definitely, there are great people like you that not only need help, but deserve help. And we all need to come together to lift people like you up so that you can lift up the ones behind you. Like, I just applaud everything that you've gone through, Keith. You're really awesome.
Thank you so much. The bottom line with me politically is all I want is good government. I know it's an oxymoron, but that's all I want. Keep me safe.
Right.
It's like 2-3 things. That's all I really want. Just is it too much to ask?
Right. Yeah.
The fraud
pave the road, pick up
programs
the
that don't work. You're doing all this stuff, and Kennedy's like, "But what are the results? The results are we're all way more sick than we ever were."
Yeah.
That's all. That's me in a summary. Is like, why can't we have good government? I can't answer that. I don't know why.
I think it's just a societal shift. We've all become a lot more myopic and selfish, and that finds its way into so many different ways. So thank you for being selfless and coming and sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Wow, thanks for having me on.
You're awesome.
Awesome experience, really.
Yeah, I hope you come back. If you want to come back with your friend, a punk rock panel or something, that'd be
rad.
Thank you, everybody, about Rehab All-Star. Keith's book is Rehab All-Star, available online at an online retailer near you. So, Keith, do you ever autograph them like the star that you are?
I haven't yet, but I have a list of people that I've asked for their addresses, and I've ordered put it this way, I ordered 60 books. I don't even have them. This is the only one I have. This is the house. This goes back to the house. This was theirs. I gave it to them.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
60
So
coming, and I probably got. I'm gonna mail out like 35 to people I really wanted to thank. Those are for those watching. If you give me your address, it's coming. Some people are like, "We want to read the book," and if they're one of these people, I might just send them the PDF. But start the reading. It's not as easy, but people are anxious to read the book, and that's exciting. But bottom line with me right now is stay grounded. This could flop, and so be it. I finished, but it could take off, and be ready for that. Don't let it go to your head and the ego. And I'm just very careful not to get ahead of myself, which is why this experience was so wonderful. I knew I could talk to you. We spoke the same language. We had a lot in common, and I just wanted to sit and chat about recovery. It's important to me.
Yeah, wherever you're watching, if Rumble or YouTube, Keith's website is on them, where you can go and contact him, get his book, and find him on Facebook so we can all shit post together. Keith, you're punk rock, man. Just keep on keeping on. You're awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you so
punk rock's
much.
It's been such a help. Rancid 11th Hour. I can't say enough about the punkers that have helped me. It's been wonderful. So thanks for having me on. I just absolutely appreciate it.
And you got a love you, brother. So proud of you in the chat. So that's great. Well, we hope to see you back. So keep rocking and rolling. And
thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And we'll be back next Friday. It's just Randy and I from LAPD, and I'm not sure. Oh, there, Pammy just put it in the chat. Thanks, Pammy. Thank you. Keith's.com. So thank you, Keith Jajko. You're fucking awesome. And we hope to have you back. And see you guys next Friday.
Well, thanks, everyone.